Get started. Good morning, everyone. My name is Chris Weaver, and this is my Make Money Now coaching call. Today, we're going to be talking about database management. And for some of you, this is going to be very rudimentary. For others of you, this is going to be very eye-opening. Just to give a little bit of my background, I think it's important for there to be context as to why I might say this is something that you might want to listen to, because it's something that I've done. I think that it's important for us to have that context. And I'm going to just go ahead, and if you're making a bunch of noise in the background, if we could just go ahead and mute you, that would be wonderful. All righty. So here's my experience. I was the #1 new agent in Florida, 2005, 2006. I have done over 120 million in real estate business in a single year. I have listed 120 properties in a single year. I am a national trainer and coach and have been for over a decade. I've owned 3 different brokerages. I've owned a Remax, a Sotheby's, and a Self-State franchise. I've worked with every major brand as either an employee or a consultant. I'm a former chief operating officer of the Real Recruiter and Jet Black Solutions, and I'm a former Tom Ferry coach. So with that experience, I have helped people build real estate companies and help people build real estate systems. And I want to talk about what a system is. I want us to get our definitions straight. I think that being on the same page when we talk about things and using words is really important. So Webster's defines a system as a set of things that work together as parts, a set of principles or procedures according to which something is done, an organized scheme or method. And so when I talk about a database management system, it is exactly that. It's a set of processes that work together. So what's a process? A process is all of the related activities or parts inside that system that work together to make it function. So think of database management like an engine. We feed an engine fuel, those gears grind. The exhaust is people who are telling us no, and it churns those wheels of business in those yeses that we get. So I've talked repeatedly about how we need to have 6 to 10 lead sources, and I want to talk about how we came up with this. So the core 4, which anybody that's been in Tom Ferry coaching in the past, I think it's like 3 years, Tom talks about the core 4. So in coaches training, one of the things that we learned is how Tom came up with the core 4. So Tom Ferry coaching, and this isn't to brag on Tom, this is just a statement of fact, 98 of the top 100 real estate agents, 90 of the top 100 real estate teams, 485 of the top 500 real estate agents, 485 of the top 500 real estate teams are all a part of or have been a part of Tom Ferry coaching. So what Tom did is, over a period of 3 years, from 2011 to 2014, he looked at his coaching clients to find out what they all had in common. And what he came up with was these core 4: center of influence, geographic farming, online leads, and mega open houses were the 4 lead sources that these entities had in common. So when I talk about the core 4, it's not saying you need to do this because Chris says so. It's saying that this is what all the people who are functioning at a very high level in real estate, this is what they all have in common. So I'm not saying you can't be successful by just geographic farming. I'm not saying you can't be successful by just doing mega open houses. What I'm saying is the teams that are functioning at a very high level are functioning at a very high level with the core first, before they move on to additional lead sources. Does that make sense? Okay. We're going to bounce in and we're going to look at the implementation of those lead sources. So we've got our engine, and this is our database management system, right? And so we've got our fuel that's coming in our funnel, and that's our lead source, right? So how this lead source is coming in, let's call this an online lead. We get this online lead that comes in. We've got to put it into our database management system so that we can figure out whether this is somebody that we want to continue to work with, or what we're going to do with them. You know, we've got a little exhaust pipe. Our nose end up, you know, shooting out the back end. And our yeses are people who are raising their hand and saying they're ready. So I want to throw some statistics out to you when it comes to database management and lead incubation. So back in 2009, John Cheplack and I were tasked by Century 21, which was one of our big consulting clients, to help them evaluate a lead management and lead incubation system. And so the number one person that we went to is we went out to Santa Barbara, California, and we sat down with a gentleman by the name of Michael Russer, Mr. Internet, and we talked about what lead incubation would look like or should look like. Now, since then, Realogy implementing a system called Lead Router, and they're now replacing it with other things, and Zip Leads and Zap Leads and all those things. But ultimately, what we came up with in talking to the best minds in real estate and real estate technology is that we had to have a system in place that was going to incubate people for as long as it took for them to go from being a no to a yes. And so if the average American consumer moves every 5 to 7 years, then we needed to have a 10-year incubation system. So for those of us that have been in the business for more than 10 years, it makes sense that we put people into a system that will incubate them for about 10 years. Now, a lot of those things can repeat, but when we think about our database system, it needs to have a coordinated effort that includes calling them, texting them, messaging them using social media, branding to them, marketing to them, email, drip email, and all of those things. So that as time happens, they have the opportunity to raise their hand and say, yes, I'm ready, or no, I'm not. So I want to jump forward just a little bit. So if we've got this system that is dealing with every single person that's coming into our ecosystem, then the next piece that we're looking for is we're looking for automation of that system. One of the biggest mistakes that I see new agents make and experienced agents make is they find this really cool new technology and they change their system to adapt to the automation that this technology will bring them. That is a fatal mistake. So when you're looking at how you are going to automate your systems and processes, you have to already have systems and processes in order for them to be automated. You already have to know, okay, so I want to email people that are in my ecosystem once a week or on a regular basis and have a different message. Great. That means I need to have a database management system that includes drip email marketing. I want to be able to text people. Okay, so do you want an automated text? Do you want a regular text? Or regular text, I sit there on my phone and I send them a text. Automated text is something that I can plug them into and move it forward. So automation, technological resource, gives us the ability to handle more people in our database management system or handle them more efficiently. Why is that important? Because we want to be able to grow our database management system so that we can ideally deal with more leads and have more people that we're converting from customers into clients and selling them real estate. So when we look at our system, these systems need to be duplicatable and scalable. This has to be something all of us that are on this phone, except for maybe a couple people, one of the key ingredients of our business is developing a third line of revenue or a fourth line of revenue for some of us that is revenue share that has to do with talent attraction. So if I have a system that works, I can help an agent that I am attracting to EXP by sharing my system with them and giving them the ability to duplicate my system. That's why a duplicatable system is so important. Here's another great example. So Juan's on the call. Juan is a soccer coach and a former professional soccer player. So part of his system is I take people out and play soccer with them in order to get sales, right? That's not something I can duplicate. I can't go out and play soccer with people, right? That's not part of what I can do. So I need to make sure that as I'm developing my system and looking at duplicating it, looking at having people replicate it, it has to be things that they can do as well. So I said duplicatable and scalable. Scalability is the capability of a system, network, or process to handle a growing amount of work. So if I know the average American consumer moves once every 5 years, right? And I have 500 people that I'm farming to, it means 100 of them are going to be moving in the next 12 months. You know, just rough numbers. 50 of them in the next 6 months, 25 of them this quarter. So what am I doing within my database management system to incubate those people so that the 25 who are ready to put their home on the market this quarter have the highest likelihood of raising their hand and saying, Chris, I want your help, right? So that's the whole purpose of my database management system. So the scalability of it is, if I can only handle 10 deals a month, or I was talking to someone over the weekend, someone I was masterminding with, and he wants to have one closing a week, right? So for him, it's one closing a week, 50 deals a year. That's his number. So as we create these systems and processes, we need to make sure that they are scalable as well as duplicatable. That way, as I add more fuel to my database engine, I'm getting more output, right? So there's a thing called, I don't have a slide on this, called the law of diminishing returns. And that is, it doesn't matter how much more we throw at our database engine, it still throws out the same amount of deals, right? So we want to know what those numbers are. So what is my scalability? Where do I see a law of diminishing returns where it doesn't matter how much money I throw at it, how much resource I throw at it, I'm not getting back what I want to get back in that. So scalability is very important. Our ability to start with a center of influence of 50 people and scale that to 100, 150, 200. Start with a farm area. And I've got somebody that I'm working very intensively in building his farm with him. And he said, well, I'm going to do EDM, electronic direct door marketing, to the 1,200 homes that are closest to my home. And I almost had a heart attack, because when you're starting something, you start small and then scale up, right? So I said, let's start with 100 homes. Let's make sure you know what you're doing. Let's make sure you're doing all of the activities that have to do with farming effectively. And then let's scale it, because once we know how to do 100, it's easy to add our second 100 or our third 100 or our fourth 100, as opposed to doing 1,200 poorly, which is what would have probably ended up happening, because he doesn't have the system that's scalable if you start with that 1,200 people that you're farming to. So economies of scale. So this is one of the things for me that when I talk about my ability to grow my team and my ability to sorry about that. I'm snoozing all of my alarms telling me that I'm late for this call. So my ability to continue to grow by adding additional farm areas and by adding human resource, for me, that was when my business began to blow up. So economies of scale are the cost advantages that enterprises obtain due to their scale of operation, with cost per unit of output decreasing with increasing scale. So not to be too complicated, but what that basically means is that it does not get more expensive for me as I create more leads. So I'll talk about some fixed costs, things that we have in our database management system. So it does not matter how many phone calls I make. using my Vulcan 7 dialer, the cost of my Vulcan 7 dialer does not go up. So if I am making 100 calls a day and I'm spending $129 a month for my Vulcan 7 dialer, and I scale that up so that I'm making 200 calls a day, that fixed cost of my dialer does not go up. It stays the same. It actually gets cheaper per call, right? So now the amount of time that I'm putting into it, that does go up, right? And so as I add human resource, I get the ability to take advantages of those economies of scale as I scale my business up. So, and I want to talk about this part of it because I think it's very, very important. Everybody, and we've got people on this call right now, just looking at it from at least 3 different regions of the United States. And the market right now in Dallas, Texas is still really good. We're seeing a little bit of a shift, but we're really not seeing a downturn in the market. I have friends in South Florida who are telling me it feels like 2007 and 2008 when things were about to crash for them. That's what it feels like for them. I don't know that it actually is that way, but that's what it feels like for them. I have friends in New Jersey who it is still the seller's market that it's been for them always. They're still having the high appreciation just because of where they're located. So my ability, especially within the framework of a national brokerage that those of us that are with EXP have, my ability to target a part of the country that still has the levels of growth that I want for my real estate business, to recruit to that team, to that expansion team, and my ability to duplicate my system in Hoboken the same way I would in Madison, Wisconsin, the same way I would in Spokane, Washington, and here in Dallas, Texas, that for me gives me a lot of freedom. I don't need to go sell houses in Hoboken in order to build a team in Hoboken, and in order to use my systems and overlay them so that my team members in Hoboken can grow their business. I know what the numbers are. I know how it should work. I have a tested, proven system. So economies of scale give me the ability to do that. So I use a number of different technologies and a number of different CRMs and methodologies in order to do this. And as we learn them and as we put them into our business, it's important that we understand how this is going to scale, right? Because I don't know when I'm going to have a conversation with a David DeVoe up in New Jersey who, comes on and brings in his 32 agent, 8 different MLS's team. And I don't know if you know this or not. So this is interesting. So back in 2008, 2009, John Chepak and I, our biggest consultant, our biggest client was Long and Foster. At the time, they were the largest privately held real estate brokerage in the country. They had 220 offices, about 15,000 agents, and they were going into New Jersey. Well, New Jersey requires that in order for you to join a local MLS, you have to have a broker that is licensed in that MLS. And so our good friend, Nick D'Ambrosia, who is still the number 2 guy over at Long and Foster, he had to go, and he actually set a world record. It was in the Guinness Book of World Records, but he had to go and sit in a 1-year period of time. He had to sit and take a broker's exam in 75 different communities so that he could be a broker in New Jersey, so that Long and Foster could expand there. The beautiful thing about the environment that I'm in as an EXP agent is I don't need to go find a broker in Spokane in order to expand to Spokane. If we're already there, and for those of you that don't know, EXP is the largest by geography in the United States. But my ability to attract someone to my team in Spokane because the numbers are right or because the business opportunity is there, I can do that. I can take my systems and just overlay them on for them, and take advantage of these economies of scale. Because my subscription to Follow Up Boss, actually it's Juan's subscription to Follow Up Boss, doesn't get more expensive if I'm using it in multiple areas. KV Core, which a lot of us are using, or Commissions Inc. within the confines of EXP, my KV Core does not get more expensive because I'm using it in a different area, right? The only times it gets expensive is I'm spending money on ads in that area, right? So economies of scale are extremely important, and how we automate our business is extremely important. Now, this was very high level. One of the main reasons why I did this is so that we could come back, and I'm just going to go back in my slides a little bit. Here we go. Boom, boom, boom. Is I want to talk about what we're going to be digging into in real depth starting next week. And this is going to be recorded. But starting next week, we're going to talk about those processes that we need to be building within our lead sources and within our database management system, so that we can grow our business and actually touch the people that we need to touch. Let me go ahead. There we go. So next week, I want you to come with this in mind, and this is kind of our homework for this next week, is, okay, Chris, you're telling me about my core four. So I've got my center of influence, my farming, my online lead gen, and my mega open houses. Okay, you've trained me on how to do them. I feel comfortable in doing them. How do they fit in? How do they overlap within a database management system? So you don't have to have a separate system for emailing people for each of those lead sources, right? We can have a value-based drip email campaign that we can use for all of them, as long as we do it in a thoughtful way. So this isn't something that we're just going to build today and it's going to run for 17 years. We're going to have to continually make tweaks to our database management system. So the second part of this is, we've got a couple minutes left for this call. Those of you who are coming back at 10:45 Central, which is when we have our talent attraction coaching call, all of you who are with EXP, please come back for that. If you're not with EXP, you're more than welcome to come back and see what we're going to be talking about. But what we're going to be talking about is this same exact philosophy when it comes to talent attraction. So how do I have a database system of incubating people who are telling me, no, I don't want to join EXP right now? So just to give you a little bit of a teaser, I'm gonna end this recording. I'm gonna end this and stop this call, and then we'll come back. That one's going to be a lot more interactive, and I think almost everyone on this call is already with us here at EXP. If you're not, feel free to join us. I'd love for you to join us. I'm going to go ahead and